Alrighty, folks. Today is the 13th, and it is Friday. We got the stream for you live. Patreon, YouTube, Discord. Post your comments, your questions. In any platform you'd like, we can address them before the end of the stream. I'm ready to go here, folks. We don't need the music or anything. I'm ready to go here if you guys are ready. So we're looking at the SPY, the 5 minutes chart. It is 669, 50, 60, moving quite rapidly here. But if you can hear me fine and see the picture fine, just give me a little bit of a feedback and we're going to begin right away. Okay, thank everybody for the feedback, and let's begin here with the SPY. So we have a little bit of a rebound, but it's not holding pretty good. So even in the Qs here, not holding pretty good. I see the VIX coming down a little bit, but still above 33 in the VXX. And if you look at the VIX, we are still above 25. So the market is not going to get any sort of, at least temporary relief until we get VIX closing below 25, then maybe you're going to have relief. But the title of the stream is heading into a new uncertain weekend or another uncertain weekend. So the psychology will play a role here at the end of the day, whether if there's no development, if there's no announcement by the president or by the administration that cools things off. What do we think the psychology is going to be? My hunch would be that traders are going to be a little bit more cautious heading into the weekend, hedging portfolios, maybe buying some crude oil contracts, and that could cause pressure in the market by the end of the day. So we'll anticipate that. We'll see what happens. But you have Bitcoin. That's doing pretty good here. So maybe you want to park some money in Bitcoin or some of its proxies, such as Coinbase. If we close above the 50 here, then we have a confirmation of a bull flag. And Robinhood is also interesting if we see Bitcoin rallying. But I'd rather go Coinbase over Hood, or just go with a regular BITO, for example, if you want to bet on Bitcoin, because it is, at least technically, looking a lot better than many other charts. So if you're going to head into the weekend, maybe a lot of folks will park some money in Bitcoin. We'll see if that's going to happen or not by the end of the session, because we're still young and we need to close above the 50. If we look at the futures here, just another look, because we looked at a inverse cup and handle, so we went down. The question here is, are we forming somewhat of, let's say, an inverse ABC here, and we go down and retest the lows? We're going to watch and see if that is the case. The dollar is really important, so if the dollar does the ABC here, then we know that the futures will do an inverse ABC. So keep an eye here. I have the high would be 100.30, let's call it that, or 300, whatever you want to look at it, doesn't matter. But if we pass the highs of this candle right here, then we have a confirmation of an ABC, and the market is not going to like that. So the algos are doing the majority of the trading, and crude oil is still holding pretty good above the 50 in the 2 hours. So the risk has not been eliminated. We talked about the VIX before. So now let's do the zero DTEs, because it is a Friday expiration after all, not the monthly but weekly, so still an important expiration. Today is the 13th. Zero DTEs. We see a lot of calls being bought in yesterday's session. We see a lot of puts being closed in yesterday's session. So right off the gate in the pre-market session, right after the open, who has the advantage? The answer is the calls, not the puts. And this is why we see a gap higher. But that's already been satisfied. Now what do? Now we have to look at the battle of the volume. And the volume in the calls, you have 670. And it goes all the way to 675. But you got to remember, we're trading below 670 right now. So we're not hitting the highest volume of calls yet. And if we look at the puts, we're not hitting the highest volume of the puts yet. We're quite at 670. So you know that 670 is what we call the inflection point in today's tape, meaning you trade below, you're going to have to satisfy the put options feedback, which goes all the way to 665. If you trade above, you're going to have to follow the calls feedback at 675, but the market maker would rather just keep it at 670 or thereof and wait and see which side is going to begin to capitulate first. So that's what's going to happen for now. Now let's talk about the close. The close, you want to exercise maximum pain in the calls, you close just a touch below 670 and you eliminate the majority of the highest open interest. If you want to do maximum pain in the puts, problem here is maybe you close a touch above 670, but at the end of the day, you have a lot of open interest that's already been satisfied. So there is risk here, and I think that the market maker, the strategy for today's session, probably going to be move it around here, 670, over and over and over and over again, and try to close within that zone. What could diverge the tape up or down is if we have an algorithmic trigger. That would be from the flow of news and the tweets, of course. But my 2 cents here is the market maker wants to try really, really hard not to diverge away from 670 too much. So they can go down a little bit, they can go up a little bit, they can go down. But so long as you stay in or around 670, that's the favorable zone for the market maker. Now again, if there are flow of news or algorithmic trigger, or we see the traders, for example, hedging too much, or crude oil pops higher, or the dollar pops higher, then at that point, the market maker will have no choice but to head down. And we know that the puts feedback in the volume, I mean, it goes all the way to 665, to be honest. That's a decent volume that is building up right now early on in the session. And we have a high number of open interests. So that is my reading for the tape from a mechanical perspective. Let's do some of the big caps because that really matters in terms of the weight of the indices. So if we look at Apple, we talked about this yesterday. Apple, to my eye, it looks to me, we talked here about you have high, lower high, static lows. You're breaking down, so you're going to head down to the 200. Not going to happen today, but we're heading that way, so Apple doesn't look pretty good here. NVIDIA, a lot of folks are talking about this event that's going to happen next week. Folks, we heard a lot of stuff from NVIDIA. What's going to be new here? Why would traders buy NVIDIA ahead of this event? It's not going to change anything, really. So if we have a rejection of the 50, I'm going to reiterate that we have a bear flag pattern and we do for a date with a 200 days moving average. That could happen as soon as next week. So NVIDIA, I mean, the fact that it is flushing right now, closing the gap trading negative, that tells you that both Apple and NVIDIA on the weaker side. What's next? So we talked about Apple right here. This tab is supposed to be, how about we do that Tesla? Tesla still has a big weight of the indices. So Tesla here, you break the 200, you know the deal, you got to trade the 380. So Tesla is on the weaker side too. And then we'll look at AVGO, daily chart. Boy, if we break below the 50, then we have a revisit to the 200. So that's leaning toward the weaker side. Alphabet, on the other hand, is still showing resiliency and strength, trading above 300, but we'll see what happens at the end of the session. And you have Meta, that's on the weaker side already, giving us confirmation. If we head to the closing of the session and we're trading at this line right here, and we're losing it, we're closing below, I'm going to be ready to initiate a short of Meta. So Meta's also looking weak today. Microsoft holding a little better, but look, I think we have 401.32 as support right here. I'm going to move down to 400. Here we go. We're going to 401 is the current price, so 400 is support. Look, if we trade below 400, my 2 cents is Microsoft is going to join the rest of the downside. And Amazon, we look at that one right here, holding okay. I guess Amazon looks the better of the mega caps because it could be a bull flag and higher we go again. But Amazon alone is not going to do the job, folks. So I'm looking at the big caps here and putting 2 and 2 together. Then some momentum names like this in DK. And I'm saying that we might actually head down or have selling pressure. And the market maker will not be able to maintain the maximum pain that they want at 670. Especially if the VIX continues to go up and we see crude oil now catching a little bit of steam here. Let's zoom into the 5 minutes chart. I'm looking at the 2 hours because I want to look at a longer perspective. Because if I look at the MACD, for example, you can see in the 2 hours we went negative a little bit. Now, can we fix that and head back into positive? If that is the case, boy, it's going to be an ugly weekend. So I want you to look at this chart, look at the 2 hours at the end of the day. If you see the MACD flipping back to positive, that means the trader is going to hedge a lot before the end of the session. And of course, the dollar. Get a look at that one. But now that we looked at the mechanics of the big caps and everything, let's do the movers. Daily movers to the downside. Ulta Beauty, that's pulsing the consumer, and also earnings. So not so good. We're visiting the 200 here. So can we see a rebound? Yeah, I think. But the way I would play it here is sell naked puts, to be honest with you. So just because next week could be ugly, let's see what we can get away with here. If we go puts and we do Ulta Beauty, and let's see if we can go a little bit below the price that we have. We want to sell, of course. So we don't need this. Can we sell the 540 and get some premium out of it? Maybe I would do the 540 if I can sell it for $5. I would do the 540. But I would not do, for example, the 200 at 555 because we could go a little bit lower, and you need to have a little bit of a buffer. Now, a lot of folks will use calls. I'm not sure I'm going to be a fan of that because, yes, you're gapping outside of the lower Bollinger Bands, but there's no guarantee that it's going to rebound right away. You actually want to wait the 3 days rule before you do the opposite trade, which is trading to the upside. But you can sell puts right now to exploit the increase in the implied volatility. If we look at Adobe, clean this up, and look, Adobe is being disrupted by software, and the CEO is now getting out. A lot of folks want to buy it, but as I said before, it's a falling knife, and I think at the end of the day, Adobe is probably going to be a stock trading at 100, if not even below, when all said and done. So you're going to get rebounds, you're going to get rallies, but at the end of the day, this business is disrupted, and I don't think it's going to hold pretty good. And at the end of the day, when all said and done, we're probably going to be a sub 100 stock for Adobe. Mosaic is pulling back a little bit, but again, if we close above the 200 days, it means that we're heading back to 33 again. But it was a steep rally in a couple of days here, so we're correcting some of that. But I think that Mosaic is heading higher to close this gap at 33, at least. Looking at CCJ, uranium, we'll give it the benefit of the doubt here that we could have somewhat of a falling wedge and we break to the upside, but I would say if we lose the lows of today's session, that's going to be 105. Then nope, you're going to head down to the 200 days moving average. So that's CCJ for you. Let's look at GDX and the gold miners. That's breaking below the 50s. So if we look at gold futures, we're probably beginning to play this bear flag right here. But the miners get hit faster because you have the energy cost, fuel cost, transportation cost. So here, breaking the 50s is not a good move by GDX. And silver is also coming back down. Chemicals, along with the Mosaic and the fertilizer names, pulling back a little bit, but I think these pullbacks are opportunities to buy. Same thing in UNG. I think all of these names are pulling back right now because they ran a little bit too high. Not UNG specifically, but the chemicals and the fertilizers. And comes next week, we're probably going to rebound and move higher again. But if we're talking about themes here, folks, these are earnings, so not really a theme. We talked about fertilizers, chemicals, so it was working yesterday, is now taking a breather. And I see some of the inverse dollar trades, so the metals are not doing pretty good, be it gold miners, be it silver. So I see that as a theme. Lithium, SGML, for example. I see commodities not doing pretty good, maybe because the dollar is going up. So that's the theme in the negatives. Defense contractors looking shaky, to be honest with you here. I think that Lockheed probably going to head down to the 50. So I think the defense contractors will see some profit taking. Now you might say, but how does that jive with the geopolitical situation? It doesn't mean that it has to go up in a straight line, right? You got to have profit taking and rotations from one place to another. Maybe somebody who's stuck in the defense contractors made a lot of money. They want to book profits and have the money in cash, right? At some point, your hedge against the geopolitics have to evolve. And you can move from energy stocks, you can move to defense contractors, but at some point, maybe, at the end of the day, the resort is going to be bonds and the dollar. So I see that as a theme here, folks. The metals are going down. I see the the chemicals, the commodities. So what's going up here? Looking at the theme going up, Bitcoin, obviously anything Bitcoin or cryptos. So you have BMNR, you have Cypher, you have Galaxy, Mister, all moving higher. But how far do we think that Bitcoin is going to go? I mean, there's no guarantee that we're going to close above the 50 to begin with. And even if we do, we might rally a little bit, but unless we escape this sort of a rising wedge pattern, we have to look at the weekly chart of Bitcoin. All what we're doing, by the way, is just an oversold rebound, right? I mean, look at this weekly right here. So rebounding, but who's to say that we're not going to go down again? So I don't think that Bitcoin is in solid grounds to begin with, but if we close above the 50, it might be at least giving folks some relief for this weekend that we see money being parked into it and it rallies over the weekend. What else is moving up? Rebounds of some of the oversold names in private equity or private credit, such as Blackstone. I see the chips are still doing okay with Micron. Rebounds on oversold names like Conagra. So I see oversold rebounds, and I see cryptos, and I see some chips doing okay. Rebounds in the cruises, again, a little bit oversold. But I'm not seeing strong rebounds here. Humana even rebounding, but it's oversold. I'm not going to trust that, to be honest with you. WDC, that's chips, but it's fading. Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of strength here in the market, folks. It looks to me that we're probably going to flip negative because I'm not seeing a lot of names going up by, let's say, 3, 4, 5%. So, I mean, we're already close to being negative here in the SPY. And if we lose 666 and we close below that by the end of the day, to my eye, that's going to be a confirmation for more downside to come. And the 200 pretty much becomes in the bag kind of trade. So watch 666. We lose it. We close below. Got to revisit the 200. Now, before we take your comments and questions, let's do some of the unusual activities here and see what we can spot. So we're looking at high premiums, shorter expiration dates, maybe 90 days from now. And we're looking at out of money and volume above the open interest. Look at some of these names here. So again, they're doing some crypto rebounds. That's understandable. Hood, and I'm looking at the buy here, but VIX, that's really interesting. I was looking at this trade earlier. So 30 calls and then selling the 50. So they're buying the 30, they're selling the 50, and they're going to the 25th. So not too far from here, and that's quite a pop. And I think they're onto something. I mean, when you see a theme here in the unusual activities of betting for USO to go up, betting for crude oil to go up, and then betting for the VIX to go up, you got to trust the market here that the insiders know something that you and I don't. And if you look at and honestly, it's not really something that you and I don't, because we looked at the patterns here, and I showed you in the SPX, I think, let's see if my markings are still here. In the weekly chart, yeah, I showed you this rolling pattern, right? So when you have this rolling top pattern, and then you have confirmations in the Vortex indicator, as you see right here. And in this episode, we got to, if we can move that up here, excuse me. Whoops. Let's move this guy up. There we go. And you'll see it here. Confirmation. And in this episode here, 21, the bear market got a confirmation right here. The smaller ones don't really matter because there's smaller corrections. But here, this is a big one of a rolling top. And now we have another one happening. So you got to trust the process here. I don't think it's really something that traders know that you and I don't. I think they're looking at the same charts and coming to the same conclusions. But Micron here, they're fading the rip by the 425. So we just looked at Micron and they're fading it. The Qs, let's see how far they're going here. 593. That's not too far from here. 593 would be right around just a touch above the 200 days moving average. So look, I think we go down to the 200. Why not just go all the way down to the 200 and see how that's going to hold? So. But notice that they're being disciplined here. They're going 593 for May, so giving themselves a lot of time. So this one looks to me more of hedging rather than betting against the index. So they're shorting STX along with Micron. That's interesting. And then we have AXTI. That's quite unusual. 50 puts. Trading right now at 50, so AXT is the ticker. Let's take a look at this one right here. AXT. Buying the 50. AXTI, excuse me. And we're buying the 50. They probably know something here. They know something about electronic. So this is more of the Lumentum kind of trade, electronic equipment. But It's interesting that they're shorting it. Quite expensive though, so I'm going to open a spread here. If I'm going to follow this trade, I'm probably going to do the 50 and then sell the 45 for 40 if I'm going to follow this trade. So that would be my advice. But let's go back to the SPY and take your comments and your questions, folks. Before we do that, let's look at the heat map quickly here, give it a refresh. I mean, the market all in all is doing okay. It's just the big caps are beginning to flush, which tells you that they're beginning to sell the indices. And that's understandable because they're hedging ahead of a really uncertain weekend. Okay, thank you everybody from Patreon. Let's start with some Discord. I want to catch up with some of the questions that we didn't answer yesterday. So, Mug, you say you have NVIDIA 170, 180 puts for April 17. You have Tesla 400, 375 for April 17. That's the puts. I'm assuming these are all debit, not credit, right? I'm assuming these are all debit. And the short answer is for Tesla, you got to keep it. I mean, you have all the way till April 17. I think that's a pretty good trade. Now, as far as NVIDIA, you got the 180, 170. You're almost at the money. You have all the way till April. So, of course, you want to keep that trade. Now, wheat, you have April 17th. You have the 20 calls. So if we look at wheat here for the 20 calls, probably down today. No, it's actually trading higher. I mean, it could be, look, it could be a bear flag pattern here. We'll head down. So I want to see a close above 23.20 today. If that happens, I'll feel a little better about it. But you bought the 20, okay? So you're deep in the money right now. If I'm reading the trade that you have correctly, you say 20. So all of your trades are doing fine right now. So I'd keep all of them. And thoughts on this trade, SPY April 17, 635 puts. You want to buy that? You want to sell the 615? Maybe. It's a long shot, but maybe if we have a steep correction, sure, it might happen. But I mean, 635 would be way below the 200 days moving average. So why don't we start small here and go to April and go with the 660 and sell the 650? And let's see how that's going to work out first before we go too speculative into the 30s. I think that's a little bit too far. If you can get it cheap, I would say do it as a lotto, but it ain't going to be cheap. So if we do here SPY, my 2 cents is going to cost a lot of money. So we go April 17, we go 630. It's $800, so it's not cheap to do a lotto. So I would rather go 660, 650. That would be my call here for April 17. Chris from Discord, let's do this. Is there a Maverick portfolio we can view? I know there is a channel that can reverse engineer it from here, maybe, but it would be great to see the current state. So we have a video for you, okay? I've been saying this for a while, but I got a big video for you. We're going to talk about every position, and not just position, but what I'm looking for in the next few months. So that should be done this weekend. Also, Mav, did you look at NinjaTrader? Never used it myself. I used to use NinjaTrader, but right now, I got Option Strat and I like it. I'm used to it. So, I mean, NinjaTrader is good, but try Option Strat too. Okay, Friday the 13th. Yep, today's not a good day, folks. Would you mind turning on the transcripts for the videos? Yeah, a lot of you said that, but I'm not sure how I do that. Are you on Patreon or YouTube? Let's see. You're on YouTube, so yeah, I'm not sure how I do that, though. I think it's on, but I'm going to double check. Now, Benjamin, you say chat with Mav AI. Yeah, let me know. Give me a little bit of more details about that, because the other thing is, and you guys give me your 2 cents, we're going to do a poll on it in Top Gun Chat channel. I'm going to ask you a poll after this stream. Do you guys want the the highlights after every stream, or do you just go back and watch the entirety of the stream? And if you do watch the entirety of the stream, is there a possible way that we can have AI summarize the points or the questions in the stream and where we can find them, so I can post them in the comment section and somebody can just look at what they want? And that's going to save me time instead of doing the highlights. So if you know how to do that, or you know how to turn that on YouTube, please let me know. Small, you got Meta, July 17th, 480, 470 put spread. And you're selling the calls at 940. And you're receiving a credit on top of that, 650. I mean, that's a brilliant trade, right? Yeah. Because your risk here going all the way selling the 940, that's a trade that Honestly, anybody who has a margin account should be doing something like this. And I would go even bolder. I would sell the 480, not the 480, excuse me. I would sell the 500 and then maybe sell the 480, 470 and receive lesser credit. Okay, dear Mav, over the past few weeks, I've been looking closely into Citrini, or Citrini, whatever that, Citrini. Some people say Citrini. I'm honestly shocked that anyone takes it seriously. At best, it reads like a fan fiction, fear porn. What is described there has very little to do with the actual reality of AI. It makes me wonder whether, look, I'm not a big fan of it, but I think that they did it in a creative way that captured the market's attention. But is there some merit behind it? The answer is yes. At that merit, we're going to do a video about it, by the way. I have a video that I'm working on called The Citrini Prophecy. And I'm going to talk about it from a realistic and mature way, not the fan fiction. I'm going to tell you that the thing that makes sense is the impact on white-collar jobs. That's already happening. It's not fiction. It's not futuristic. It's happening right now. So we should expect to see more of that. What will be the overall impact on the economy, on society, if we begin to eliminate these white-collar jobs? I think that's a conversation worth having from the Citrini papers. Okay, good morning, afternoon, everybody. Let's begin here. Evening. Some of you got evening. Bar chart SPY options contract. How come the volume is very high in comparison to the open interest? Could you go over how to read the information? Okay, that's a really good question. So when we look at bar chart right here, if we explain it one by one, the OI change are calls or puts, in this case calls because we're looking at the calls, that were bought yesterday and not closed by the end of the session. So they roll over into the open interest. The open interest is, it is factoring in not just the OI change from yesterday, but it's factoring in what's been held all the way till today's expiration, even before yesterday's session. That's your total open interest. Now, the volume is what they're trading right now. So sure, we should expect that the volume, the contracts that are traded right now, 0 DTEs, folks trading really quickly, maybe just for the day, an hour, a few minutes. So of course the contracts in the volume going to be much, much higher than the open interest. So the open interest is what's being held overnight, but a lot of traders go in, close, get out really quickly. So that's your volume. And that's why it's usually higher than the open interest. Not just usually, but always higher than the open interest. We're now at 665, folks. That's what we talked about. So now let's go back here. We're back at 665. So we're satisfied the highest number of open interest in the puts, at least the next one, because we were at 70. So we went to the next highest open interest and higher volume. Now there's a possibility that the market maker could move us all the way to 660 in a big squeeze. But you really need to add some volume here because these are weaker volumes at 61 and 62. You need to bridge the gap all the way to 660. Otherwise, the market maker is probably going to try to push us above that 665 to avoid this guy closing in the money by the end of the session. Because if they move us above 65, the calls have smaller open interest, so there's little risk in the calls. So that's the strategy by the market maker right now. They're going to try to push us above 65. But if the selling pressure continues, let's see. I don't see crude moving a lot, but the dollar is moving, so there's a possibility we can go to that 660 number, folks. Okay, good question. Now, do you see any Deegan gamble in the 0 DTE? So I hope you got that, because it get a little bit too late, right? 665 is already here. So maybe you want to play the 660 right now, right? So Mike, you say 666 puts. I hope you guys did that already, because right now it's already in the money. Things move fast, folks. Things move fast. I'm still kind of new to options, Chad. Next week is a contract change. What is the significance of contract switch? So next week is going to be a monthly contract. So it's more significant than the weekly contract like we have right now because we got more participation in monthly contracts. And that's for multiple reasons. Folks love to trade the monthly. Hedging usually happens with the monthly, not the weekly expiration. But all it does is the options that are expiring today, those are gone. Either you win or you lose. And then you have next week, you have new set of options that will expire in that particular Friday. So that's really the switch. It's not, if you're asking about rolling, so sometimes would say that if you have a contract, let's say I have the 670, or excuse me, the 660 in the SPY, or maybe 655, right? I have 655. Maybe if I have it for next week's expiration, that's a little bit too soon. We can have rebounds. We can have maybe some sort of a surprise announcement in the Middle East, and we see a rebound. So to be on the safer side, you give yourself a little bit of more time, and that's going to give you a buffer on the price. That if you get a rebound, you're not going to see a lot of decay in the options value that you hold. So you go to instead of March 20, you roll it to the 27th. So you have the same trade, the SPY 55 puts, but now you go an extra week. So maybe that's going to answer your question here and the significance of changing the contracts. Okay, Small, you opened your meta short as put spread. I saw that. I'm going to open a short here. It's going to cost me over $600,000. It's going to be just one increment. Anyhow, HEMAV, NASDAQ, and E-mini futures both closed below the 200 days moving average, now above. But still a big bearish signal. Let's take a look here. So the E-mini daily chart, let's see. Clean this up. Yeah, it looks like we're going to get rejected of the 200 and trade below. So I don't think anything changed here. Let's go back to the 2 hours. See if this one can get us here. Good. Then we have the NASDAQ. That's already below the 200. So it looks like we have more downside to come. We might be talking about the flush that we've been talking about for weeks now. Mav, could you guide us on an operation where you sell naked calls and naked puts? Please do SNDK. I want to understand how you strategize around the strikes and the expiration. Thank you in advance. So, for example, I mean, this is maybe last week. I sold the 800 calls in SNDK. So, SNDK. And I sold the naked. So, sell call, April 17. We sold the 800, so I received a nice credit for it. And it's going to require a pop of about 31% before I begin to lose money in this contract. Now, what is the beauty of doing such strategy? If SNDK trades down by the expiration date of April, and it's not even close to 800, guess what? I collect the entirety of the premium. If SNDK trades above 800 by April, then I have the option of collecting the premium, all of the credit right here, in short shares at 800. So let's say SNDK closes at 810 or 820 by April. I reserve the right to short at 800, which is a little below the price, but I think at that point, if we go to 800, that's going to be ridiculous, and we're probably going to head down. Now, my 2 cents is we're probably not going to see 800. We're probably going to crash before that. So I'm looking to collect the premium, but I'm not ready to add to my short by borrowing the shares right now, because in the weekly chart, I'm not seeing quite a break yet, a definitive break. And this is why the strategy right now is I sell calls and raise the premium. And then when I'm ready to short, I use that either in deploying it in a put or using it as a margin against borrowing the shares short. Now, in the case of selling naked puts, that would be, an appropriate example here would be OKLO. So here, this is a position that we entered last year, and it played out pretty good. We have a big crash in OKLO. So some traders that are staying short in a position might look at the chart and say, look, it's kind of oversold. We might actually rebound from this falling wedge pattern right here. Instead of breaking down, we might actually, let's clean this up here. We might actually have a rebound for whatever reason. We have an earnings report coming out. So in this case, you'd be selling what we call the covered put. So here you're going to sell a covered put. You go a little bit outside of the money. So in this case, maybe you go to the 50 and you raise some credit. And what that's going to do is if OKLO rebounds by the expiration date of April 17th, you get to collect the entirety of the premium. If it trades below 50 at that point, then you have to buy your shares. So you have to buy whatever number of contracts that you sold right here. You have to buy them back at 50. But again, you shorted way up, you're buying back the shares at 50, so you're going to close the trade at a profit. So I hope that answered your question here on what we do in selling naked calls and naked puts. Okay, dear Mav, what would be a good time level to short CoreWeave again? Well, I'm already short CoreWeave. I don't jump from positions back and forth, I just hedge, because my thesis is CoreWeave is going to crash, right? It's probably going to go down to zero. So I entered the short, and I'm still short, and I don't jump in and out of positions, but I understand if you do that, because sometimes you need the margin, you need to free up the capital for a trade that you think appropriate right now. In any case, you can use strategies such as buying calls to hedge when the stock goes down too much and it's ready to rebound. But what is an appropriate level short CoreWeave right now? Let's turn this on. And you can see it here that we have somewhat of a topping head and shoulder pattern. But you want to see a break at the neckline. So that's going to be below the lows of this pattern right here, this consolidation. And if we take the lowest wick of this candle, it would be 70. So if we lose 70, I would say you short CoreWeave. Right now, there's a possibility we go up and close the gap. So I would not initiate a new short right now, but if we trade below 70, I would say that's a permission to short. Mav, all in losing momentum, still bullish as long as it closes today above the 50. I think they're just booking profits from these trades in the short run because you have options expiration right now. So they're pushing the price a little bit down for folks who already made a lot of money buying them this week. But comes Monday, they're going to rebound again because this is the trade that is most appropriate right now, playing the geopolitics. So you want to stick with it. Humana, good buy? I'm not sure about that. We just looked at Humana. I'm not sure if I trust the rebound right now. That looks like a weak rebound to my eye. Okay, I got the 160, 150, 140 put butterfly in Oracle next week. It is up 100%. For these kind of trades, should I roll or leave it? Okay, so you got 160, you sold the 150, and you bought the 140. That's my rating of the trade. So Oracle right now trading at 155. So you sold the 150, you have the 160, so that's good. That's in the money. And you bought the 140. So in a trade like this, the only problem is if it goes too much. For example, if it goes below 150, but right now we're not even close to that number yet. So look, you have 100% worth of gains. I would book that. 100% worth of gains is decent. Now you might want to roll the trade for next week though and buy the 150. Sell the 145 and then buy the 140. I think that would be a good trade for next week. But if you want to keep it as it is, that's another option because the trade is good as is. But I would say with 100% worth of gains, I would book that. Okay, Tesla 375, 400, April 17, keep or roll. So I assume you're talking about 400 puts. 375. I looked at that in Discord, so we already answered that. I think that you're on the right track, and you probably want to keep the trade because you're already in the money. And the next support will probably be 380. If we lose the 200 today and close below the 200, then you got your confirmation. SPY trying to rebound here, so let's see if we can do anything. So the dollar maybe pulled back a little bit, given the indices a little bit of a hope, but it looks to me that it's doing that C leg, so I'm not sure. Yeah, and the VXX maybe faced a little bit of a double top right here, but it looks like it might retreat and give another shot at that double top and break above, so not sure. We're out of the woods. And crude oil is still looking pretty good here, so I think we head down more. Okay, Mav, I got the EWY 125, 120, and Walmart 120, 115 puts for both next week. So EWY, I think we talked about this. Right, EWY, you probably want to hold on to it 125, 120, because it's going to break below that 50. If the price of oil spikes over the weekend, that's going to be a net negative for Korea. So if you're a little bit nervous about it because you have next week, and hey, what if we open above 130 next week? Just roll the trade. So this is going to be a good example of rolling the trade another week. If we do, this is the current trade that he got, 125, and you sold 120. You have about $200. If you roll the trade to next week, that's going to cost too much. I mean, it's just going to cost a touch here. You need a little bit of volume in the 125, but I think you can get it by the end of the session. So it's not going to cost you much. It might cost you 10, 20, 30 bucks. I think that's worth it to keep the trade because you're going to get a chance of profit of 42%. But the chance of profit as is right now is 39. So this is a decent trade. I don't want to play with it too much. Then you have Walmart. That's the 120, 115. So you have Walmart. Yeah, that one would probably has to be closed because you're above 125. If we close below 125, I would say keep it. But right now, looking at the chart, it looks to me that it got support of the 50. It wants to close the gap before it heads down again. So Walmart at close, EWY at keep. Walmart's not a bad trade, but maybe you want to wait till we cut below the 50 before you buy that 120 and sell the 115. Okay, hey Mav, Lyft looks bearish to me. Bear flag on the daily chart. Is it realistic to target 10? So if we look at Lyft, 10 going to require a big drop here. So you run to something. Yeah, it is a bear flag, right? It is a bear flag and below the 200 weeks moving average. So, but if you're going to target 10, I mean, you're playing a long-term game here. You're playing pretty much a bankruptcy of the company and a lot of bad news. So you have to go way too far in the expiration dates. So I would say an appropriate date would be, if you go with the 10, you probably need to go somewhat in October or December for this trade, or even Jan 27 for the trade to be valid. BTC showing bullishness, and I decided to add an increment in the money calls on Robinhood coin. I would say go with coin. Coin looks a lot better than Robinhood. IBIT for April 17th. So all of this is redundancy, right? You need one bet. You don't need all of them. It's going to be hard for you to manage all positions, especially knowing that you have other positions. So just pick one of these, and my pick will be coin or IBIT for April 17th. When we could say no, it was a fake out, yeah, then you close it. So I think that's a pretty good hedging strategy here. Stone, you got Oracle March 20, 160, 155 put spread. Your strategy to take profit, sell at the gap for 3 or hold for the 5. You tempted to hold, so I think you should hold because it's showing a lot of weakness here. And you got the 160, you sold the 155. Next week, you might go to 150 before you find support. And if it was my trade, I'm going to take a chance here and hold and try to capture the $5. Okay, yeah, if you guys know how to do an AI summary, that's going to save me a lot of time and help us out. For anybody who misses the stream, for example, and try to watch it again, they can look at a timeline that is AI generated and they can jump in to whatever topic they want to listen to. Okay, the thing is about the highlights, the reason why I'm asking about AI is the highlights helps me out when I try to look something as a reference because I search the titles, I search the tickers, and I find them in the titles, and I can go back to the stream, the highlights, and capture the exact reference that I want to show you guys. But sometimes that's really hard when I know I said something, I know there's a chart that I examined, but I can't find where it is. So AI summaries will come really handy. In your opinion, are quant traders good or are they horoscopes or stock traders? One is predicting the S&P exact price 6504 and then up at 7100 and then 40% drop. Your thoughts? Well, quant traders, just like CTAs and commodities traders, I mean, they're part of the market, but they're not really what decide where the market goes. So I would say that do what we do every day here, examining every day what the technical patterns look like, what the fundamentals look like, what the psychology looks like, the mechanics look like, and make your decisions independently. So anybody can just capture some attention by saying, oh, the SPY is going to go to 7,000 by then or 5,000 by then. That's the cool part, of course. But from a real life trading experience, you have to have the same approach that we're doing in this channel, which is day by day. We look at what actually matters, what actually moves the market. Okay, so Tesla Butterfly 390, 380, 370. I think that's a good one. I think that's a good one, especially if you close below the 200 today. I mean, you can do it for next week if you want, because the butterfly works better if you do it for a really short term. So if you go beyond 2 weeks, butterfly is not good. If you do it for 1 week, 2 weeks, that's ideal. Actually, Citrini had probably 20 to 30% share together. My 100% profit last year. Mav with another 20. Oh, look, I mean, I think they did it in a creative way. Maybe it's a little bit too futuristic or too predictive, but I think that's the way you can capture attention. So I applaud them for what they did, but we're going to examine it from a mature way. Okay, added 30 calls for Mosaic. April 17. A bit sad I did not do it when calls cost 60 to 70 cents. But we now have confirmation. I also have shares at 25. Okay, you got plenty of time here. You got the 30, you have plenty of time. And if we do what I think the chart is going to do and trade at 33, I think it's going to do it before April. You can exercise the 30 and add to your shares. But right now, we're doing pretty good here. Okay, Craig, you say I bought 661 puts for today's dollar pushed above 100. Okay, oil eyeing 96. Today's date was not anything worthy. All in all, everything has been propped up and manipulated big time. Okay, but you got the 661. I don't know when you got it, but you should be in profits right now. I mean, it might even flush all the way below 65. We might go to 660 at the end of the day. If the selling pressure, and you see the VIX, for example, VXX trading above the prior resistance right here, I think there's a possibility SPY can go to 660. If the dollar makes it above the highs of the A leg right here, I think 660 will happen today. Lenny, yesterday I sold the 45 USO naked calls for about 3.5, expiration date next week. I would take a USO going another up 20%. To be in the red. Otherwise, I don't mind going short at 48.5. Okay, so you have the 45, and you got 3.5, so that's going to bring your net short to 48.5. But let's take a look at the chart here. 45. I think he's safe. I don't think you have to worry about it a lot, because if we have a pop in crude oil, I mean, that's going to be, to go to 45, that's going to be a pop of about 13%. That's going to require a pop of about 5, 6, 7% in crude oil, which is, again, a possibility. But again, you don't mind shorting if we go above. So I would say that you keep the trade as it is. If you're a little bit nervous about it, let's see if you sell the 50. Would that be better? UCO, and if we sell here calls, sold the 45, got about 250. What if we sell the 50? You get 150. So it's really up to you. If you're really nervous about it, I would say up it to the 50, but I think you'll be fine. Okay, same theme as yesterday, Mav. Energy fertilizer still intact, but digesting today's IWM. Okay, let's talk about the IWM, because energy and fertilizers will do, if nothing changes over the weekend, they're going to continue to do fine. Now, the IWM small caps, we faded the majority of the gains. Maybe you tried to close the gap right here and we're ready to go down. So my 2 cents would say that we head down to the 200 days moving average. So you still want to keep your TZA. And if we look at interest rates today, they're not coming down much. So the PCE was pretty much close to expectations, but didn't really move the 2-year down. So I think we're going to continue to head higher here in the 2-year yield. And that means that the IWM has more downside to come. Okay, because it looks like a learning lesson, can you explain why a down Friday usually have a positive Monday? So, okay, let's say right now we're looking at the SPY, the puts, right? Look at the open interest, right? So suppose we close at 665. All of this, all of the puts above 65, all of this will be expiring in the money. What does that mean? It means that the market maker has to buy the SPY at all of these strikes to cover what they sold. So when they do that, what happens Monday? Market goes up just because of the mechanical buying that the market maker has to do. In the calls, when we trade, let's say if we trade to 675 today and all of that open interest becomes in the money, what happens by the market maker? They have to buy, right? They have to buy at these prices. So when they have to buy at these prices, market goes up. But if they sold the put, they have to buy the stock at whatever price that they sold at. So at the end of the day, the bias is for Mondays, the bias is always to the upside, absent of what? Absent if you get a headline or something like we've seen overnight last Sunday, that pushed the futures down. And this is why a lot of traders, for example, who have puts with the expiration date of next week, and they want to hedge against it, or let's say they have puts for April, they just want to hedge on it, they buy Monday's calls, and that could be via SPY calls, that could be USO puts, for example, that could be TZA puts, that could be any mechanism you want, but Mondays usually have a bias of going up. You need to tell the risk and the nerves you need. I am holding a bunch of 1,000 calls, June SNDK. We're down over 20%, but highly convinced. Yeah, I am not worried about that. I know, my short position is down big, by the way, but I'm not worried about it. For some reason, not worried about it because I've been in this situation before. And again, it's a hardware bubble, folks. It's just a matter of time before it crashes. And when they crash down big. So the name of the game here, can you manage your margin? That's the name of the game. And if you can, you'll survive and you'll make a lot of profits at the end of the day. And you sold the 1,000, so that's another 50%, 40%, whatever it is. Okay, regarding CRWV, here in Germany, we don't have short-term taxes on capital gains. Yep, if that makes sense here, if it makes sense to you, then you have to jump in and out of positions. Here, unfortunately, we have short-term capital gains, so gotta do what you gotta do. Okay, you can index the sub-speech and have the search engine over them. You gotta show me how that's done in the Top Guns chat channel, because I'm a moron, absolute moron when it comes to technology. I mean, doing this is a miracle right now. WFC has a lot of private credit. You see it going lower. So yes, WFC is probably the weakest among the big banks. So right now it's rebounding a little bit from an oversold conditions. But if you look at the weekly chart, you're probably going to see it going down more. So to me, this is going to be more of shorting WFC rather than buying puts. But if you want to buy puts, I would say go to May. And I see the next support maybe right around here. So that could take you down to 65. No GPT. Okay, well, check it out. Maybe a way to trigger adding markers in your videos while recording to know where the highlights. Like I said, you're dealing with Flintstone here. Okay, all people with cash in Dubai start to think where to move, and crypto is one of them. This is how I explain the moves of ETH and BTC. Do you agree? Could be. I mean, Dubai is a big deal when it comes to cryptos, but I think right now, what happened is we found buyers. So some folks under consolidation right here decided to buy for whatever reason it is, and the sellers stopped dumping. I think that's what really happened. Maybe Dubai has something to do with it, some reason, but I think at the end of the day, it's really the net buyers, net sellers, and we've been having net sellers for a long time. Now we have slightly net buyers above the net sellers. Would that change at some point? Maybe. But right now, from a technical perspective alone, I think Bitcoin looks a lot better than a lot of charts that we look at all the time. Hey, Mav, I had MU credit spread for next week, 215, 220, closed 215 at the lows yesterday and flipped the 225 calls. Okay, so now you have a debit, right? Now you have a debit spread, so you have the 225, you have the 215, 225. I don't know, they're buying a lot of puts in Micron, but right now it's trading up, so maybe you're onto something here. And you say 215, so I think you mean 400, right? 415. So you bought the 420 and you sold the 425. You're almost there, so it looks like we're going to break above the sloping line of resistance, so I'm going to keep it. This could be a good hedge, by the way, especially if we have a lot of other short positions. In Dubai, we don't have capital gains at all. That's why a lot of folks go to Dubai. I hate paying taxes, especially when it's wasted for the crap that we're seeing right now, but got no other choice, at least right now. Okay, ma'am. The charts, I'm looking quite bullish. China and the Dixie. So you're looking at Alibaba, Baidu, JD, XPEV, NEO. We don't want to do all of them, though. So let's look at the major ones. Let's look at Baba. And you say that we're looking at a cup and handle. I'm not seeing it in the weekly. And I'm not seeing it in the daily either. Maybe you're looking at this tiny little pattern. That's insignificant in the larger scheme of things. That's just not, you got to close above the 50 weeks before we say that Baba is a buy. Baidu is the same thing. We need to really close above 135, that shoulder right here, before we say that we're out of the woods. So, especially with the dollar going up, folks, I'm not a fan of buying EEM, for example, or Korea or Brazil or any Chinese names. So, like I said, next week, if we don't see improvement in Baidu and Baba, they're going to be out of the portfolio. Okay, Mav, what is your strategy of selling options? Do you wait for a certain percentage point or technical indicator or just in the money? Say, for example, you have a put, the SPY 660, and you bought when the price was 680. So you bought it when it was at 680, the SPY. Your expiration is April 17. What do you do in this case? You are weighing profits, but not at the strike yet. Okay, that's a really good question. So the chart right now is working your way. So the consensus would say that you hold because you have a lot of time and we know where the chart is heading. It's heading down to the 200, which means that your trade is going to be in the money. So you have a few options. If you're confident, you stay with it. If you have a little bit of let's say, doubt that we might see a rebound Monday or some good news might emerge this weekend and cause the market to rebound, then one way you can do is to open a spread on it. And that could be a debit spread. That could be a calendar spread. So right now, let's say that we have SPY April 17th, that we have the puts at 660. You bought it when the price was 680, so you're sitting in really, really nice profit right here. You don't want to book right now because you think we have more downside to come. And that's justified just by looking at the chart right here. So how do we work our way around it? So you can sell the 650, same expiration date, and receive a nice premium. That's going to cover a nice portion of your value that you have in the 660 right now. So that's one way to do it. Another way, if you don't want to limit yourself, you might look at the chart right here and say, look, but Mav, we're going to go below 650 by April 17. I don't want to sell the 650 because that's going to limit my gain to $10. The entire value of the trade is going to be $10. So in this case, you can move it to 640 and receive a lesser credit. Another way you can do it is you go with a diagonal. So a diagonal, for example, you sell next week, sell the 650 for next week. You receive a little bit of a lesser credit, but the thing here is we're probably not going to go below 650 by next week. That's what you're betting on. So selling spreads is something you have to consider right now. And each trade is unique, of course. Sometimes you'll make 50% and you should be booking that. Sometimes you'll make 50%, but you should be holding that. It depends on what the charts are looking like and whether you have time or not. Yeah, thank you. Please, if you can let me know how to, because you guys might have noticed, by the way, that I have, let's see if I can open it up right here. So I have this guy. Let's see if it's showing up. Yeah, it is showing up. So I did all of this by Chat GPT or Gemini, whatever. So I built all of this, and you can, for example, set a background and then add all of the material that I need to look at for the videos and just look at it right here, adjust everything right here. And that's been saving me a lot of time doing the videos, but I'd like to do more than that to save time and make the content easier to find. So we're probably going to need help from that, but like I said, I'm a moron. I have a small stock position in Mosaic, Nutrien, TZA, USO, and XLU. What should I be thinking before holding over the weekend? So, I mean, you're pretty much exposed to the right theme, which is you should be holding these names. Maybe you have a little bit of redundancy, but it's not really bad. You have Mosaic, Nutrien, that's okay. Maybe the XLU would be one I'll be worried about here, XLU, but because maybe it has a topping in his shoulder, so we got something such as shoulder, head, shoulder. So what is weak in utilities today? Nothing. All of utilities looking pretty good. So for now, I would say keep all of them. I mean, all of these positions are appropriate to have right now under the circumstances we have. That's the geopolitical theme that you're playing. Okay, Maverick, I shorted Carvana at 400. Seems like we're breaking 300 now. Good time to add another. Carvana shorted at 400. That's pretty good short. And now we got a rebound here, right? So we're going down, retesting the lows. So we have to wait for the break. This guy. And that's going to be, if we take the lows here, that's going to be 285. So you might enter a short right here, but I'm worried that it could be a little bit oversold. So I would see if we can get a rebound. Right now, you're probably going to head down to 85, but that's not too far from here. I don't know if you want to short right now and then close at 85. So I would say let it go down to 85. Maybe it rebounds after that because it's going to be a little bit oversold from the bands. And then on the next rebound, you want to enter a short. That could be at 310, could be at 320. So I think you're going to get a better price on your next short. But 400, that's a really decent short. We're flushing here, folks, in the SPY and the Qs, so we're not doing pretty good. Looks like 660 is a possibility. Okay, we'll do that, Hisham. Let's do France. HMAV NQ has a level around 24,450. If it crosses to the downside, it will take the SPY to the downside too. So 24,450. Why is that important? 24,450. Maybe you're looking at here. The lows right here. I would say 24,400, but that's close enough. Then yes, if we do that, then if we look at the 2 hours chart, we're probably going to head back to the lows right here because We do have support right around here, but that's close enough. I think if we break 24,400, down we go to retest 24,000. Okay, Mav, start using Cloud or Anthropic. I should, right? Cloud, I would do that. I mean, I already used it for other things, but I will see if it can help me out more. GTB has no guardrails, best for degenerates. But I know, yeah, Cloud, we'll try Cloud. Google Meets has AI meeting recording after our company meeting. It sends over a summary. Okay, that's a good idea. Key points and where in the video call was discussed. Okay, that's a really clever suggestion. So might be the next thing we do. It'll make the job a lot easier. Anyhow, folks, let's go back here and see if we got somebody in Patreon. Okay, it seems like USD going up. Trump could announce new quantitative easing program. Look, I mean, Trump, he wasted a lot of announcements and didn't do shit. So at the end of the day, the market has the power. The traders, the bond traders, the Forex traders, they have the power, and he can try to manipulate all he wants. I think he's losing that power right now. So I would not worry about what he's going to say. Of course, it's Friday. So by the end of the session, if we're trading at the lows of the day, maybe he's going to try to do something to manipulate the algos, but I think the traders right now are reading through that it's desperate, it's not working out, we need real solutions, and we're not finding any of them. So I would not worry about that. I would worry about if the VIX trades above the high right here, that means traders going to enter the weekend, net short, hedging, and that's going to cause probably an ugly close by the end of the session. Okay, we're still waiting on UNG to pop. That's going to take a little bit of time. Okay, that's not going to happen in a day or two. That's going to take a little bit of time. So you could use an investing strategy instead and just buy EQT, since it is breaking out right here. So you want to ride the wave in EQT. We have Devon, looks pretty good. Right, Devon right now is breaking above, so could be a $50 stock pretty soon. I mean, you have CTRA. That could be, I mean, it's trading at the highs, so I'd go with Devon over CTRA. LNG could be problematic because of the news that we got yesterday from the unusual activities that somebody's shorting it. So I would stick to Devon and EQT. But I do have UNG calls, just so you know. I'm not closing any of that. I'm just keeping UNG calls, and that's we got the 14 calls. Oh boy, we're flushing down now. Okay, the VIX, look, makes it above here. You know what's going to happen. The dollar is already confirming ABC. Crude oil is firming up. So, again, it looks like an ugly session, folks. And we might hit that 660. That's the next number that I see. 660 has a lot of open interest, and the market maker is probably going to hedge against that. So that's what the tape looks like here, folks. AVGO looks really weak. Let's take a look here. AVGO, yep. So it probably lost the 50, boom, down to the 200. Probably going to break the 200 now. NVIDIA is eating shit too, so not at the 200 though. Okay, Mav, should I roll the UNG call for another week? Maybe. You know why? Because the majority of the really bearish bets that we've seen are for the expiration date of the 27, not 20. So maybe it's worth, especially if you have 14. If you have 13, if you have 13 and a half, maybe you can keep it for next week. But if you have 14, I think maybe you should roll it to 27th. Hey, Mav, shorted Carvana at 400. So we just talked about this, right? We talked about Carvana. So I just showed you that you're probably going to see a rebound at around this reaction. I would wait till I get that rebound and then short it on the next rebound. Because if you short it right now, you might get a rebound and now you'll be underwater for a little while. So since you have a good short already at 400, we keep it as it is. And then add either if we cut below 285 or in the next rebound. Yes, if Friday's down, Monday's rarely down too. So we talked about this and why it happens. It's because of mechanical reasons. So yeah, if we close at the lows of the day today, it'll be worthwhile playing some really cheap lotto for rebound to the upside Monday. And guess what? I'll be back in the closing hour. We have the chat session in the closing hour. So if I see that, I'll let you know right away. So we'll see you again, folks. We'll talk to you again in the closing hour in Discord, the chat channel, live market chat channel. But for now, let's do this here. Are you still eyeballing? Yeah, Nivit, we'll let you know right away. So before the end of this session, not the stream, but the trading session, I'll be at the chat channel in Discord and let you know everything I'm doing before we head into the weekend. So we'll see you then, folks. But if you're done trading, you're going to leave us here. We're going to say, have a great weekend. If not, we'll see you again in the closing hour. But thank you for joining me for this stream, folks. Appreciate and love all of you. Good luck to all.